This is Decode Dating, and this is Their Past Matters. So I put their instead of he or she because I don't want people to think that a man's past doesn't matter and only a woman's past matters. Both individuals' past does matter for different reasons. I'm gonna break it down. So before you take anybody serious, you want to understand why they are the way that they are at this very moment, right? So usually I'll tell you to vet somebody, and then before you get in a relationship, you got to test them and everything like that. But this is the most important thing, because if you give the full commitment to somebody whose past damaged them and they come with trauma and a whole bunch of that, you're going to have to deal with that. And most of the time when somebody's inside of a relationship for so long, they don't want to leave because they feel like they invested so much. To avoid all of that, you have to understand their past matters. So, for instance, when you go to get a new job and you fill out an application and they call you back, you're excited. You're like, yes, I got a chance to get a new job. Now, with a new job, you're going to need, like, if you had previous work history, you're going to need a resume. So jobs usually ask for resumes because they want to see if you have any experience at that job that you're going to get potentially hired for, or if you had any mishaps before that. So the job will call you in and they will set up an interview. Now, if you arrive late to the interview, that's already a red flag to them, because they say, hey, you don't even have the job yet and you're showing me you don't care about it. Next thing's next. They'll see how your resume is. You're gonna fix up your resume how you see fit. You're gonna put your name, your phone number, email address, any way for them to contact you because you want that job. So on the resume, you're gonna put your previous work history as far as any job you used to work before that. Now, with that being done on your resume, the employer is going to look and to see if they're gonna get any benefits from hiring you. Now, at the end of the day, you want the job because maybe you like where you're gonna work at, or it's all for monetary gain. Let's be real, most of the time we go to work is for money. Okay, so you're going to make sure your resume is up to date and up to par. You're gonna dot your I's and cross your T's. Now, if you put on your resume a job that you got fired at and you didn't show up on time and you cause havoc at that job, you're going to try to hide that. But if they end up doing some digging and find that job that you got fired from, and they decide to call that job that you got fired from, and they speak to that employer, and they tell you, oh, this person was not punctual, this person had arguments with my other employees and just made a big mess. What do you think is going to happen now that you're on that interview? Most likely the employer is going to think twice about hiring you. So that's one reason why your past matters, right? Another example is if you go to the bank to get a loan. A lot of us fall on hard times, which is understandable, and we need a little bit of money. Sometimes you try to ask your friends and they don't have it. Sometimes you ask your family in a similar situation. Now, the only last stop you have to do is go to the bank. But guess what the bank checks? If nobody knows, it's your credit. Now, your credit has a history, a past of your previous expenses. Now, if you were the type of person to get your first credit card and just go crazy with shopping, buying a whole bunch of stuff, hey, to each their own. But now you have a debt that you didn't pay, and that's on your credit report. Now you go to the bank and you say, hey, I want to take out $1,000 loan or a $5,000 loan or a $10,000 loan. They're going to check your credit. Now, if they check your credit history and it's good, guess what they're going to give you? The loan that you asked for with probably minimal interest. But now if you ask for a loan and your credit is somewhat okay, they might not give you as much. Maybe you ask for 10 and they say, we can't give you 10, we could give you 5. And then they're going to tack on a whole bunch of interest because they cannot trust you. And now if your credit is bad, then they won't give you a loan at all. They'll tell you get out. Now that's another reason why your past matters. I gave those two examples because most of the time this is what people go through in their everyday lives, whether it's getting a new job or the bank. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell where it matters for two genders, for the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine. For instance, I will explain women first, right? When a woman gets into, the dating phase and she decides to date this guy and she doesn't do the vetting and she jumps into a relationship, she doesn't check the past history and the resume, aka the whole facts, and she decides to, date this guy, and then say they're in a year into the relationship or even 2 years, and she feels madly in love with this guy. She invested a lot. They talking about marriage and everything is all good and dandy. But then she decides to do some digging because she got a little, intuition going on, right? She had a little weird feeling. He did something a little suspect, right? And she does a little digging and she ends up finding some interesting things that happened, right? So from digging into his past now, she finds, say, some photos or some inappropriate text message to another man. And she says, whoa, I thought this guy was straight. And I thought this guy liked only women. And she finds out that he played for the other team, aka Rainbow Gang. And what do you think that would do to her mental at that point? She felt like this guy is her match. She felt super compatible with him. They did everything together. She met his family and her family, and everything was all great. But then she finds out some devastating news that her man is, well, I can't say was because he still is. He played for the other team. Most of the time, a woman who likes only men, strictly dickly as they say, she's going to leave that relationship. So that's one reason you want to check a man's past. Also, another way to check a man's past, if he's not, I can't say the R word, and if he's not a pedo, meaning, doing inappropriate things with minors, aka, a weirdo, right? So that's another 2 ways. I tell women all the time, make sure when you're going on the first date, you get the guy's full name, make sure somebody has your location, and, you stay safe within a vicinity. Don't go to no guy's house the first night. You don't know what that guy's capable of because you do not know that guy's past and you do not know his resume, aka whole facts. So that's one way it matters to a woman for a guy's past. Now for the men, which I mainly target, my target audience, is you want to check a woman's past. So now imagine if a man, same situation, similarities to the woman dating the guy and find out that he plays for the other team. A man is dating a woman. So he meets her, they date for a while. He doesn't do the vetting process. He jumps right into the relationship, falling in love with the woman like men typically do. And, they're 2 years in the relationship. They both meet each other's family. They plan on wedding and all this, right? And say he had a weird gut feeling that something's not right. She did something a little too suspect for him. And he does a little digging and he goes through her phone and he ends up finding out that she does porn. What do you think that's going to do to the man's mental? Any man with morals and standards, I would say most men don't want to be with a woman long term who sexualized herself in the past, because it's bad for his reputation. Imagine if he was in a corporate business and, the video got out that she was doing some freaky deaky stuff, some freak offs with prior men, and, your former business partner or potential business partner or boss sees that. Now, you look like a man who doesn't have any pride or dignity or anything like that. You just look soft. So that will make most men want to leave the relationship if they see that. Similar situation, you don't want to find out that your woman wears the R word in the past, or the type of girls that finesse and steal from men using their sexuality. So those are 2 ways also where a man could see a woman's past, and most likely it will damage him if he decides to stay in the relationship long term. To each their own. Some women can stay with a man with a questionable past who used to do freak offs Diddy style. And some men can stay with some women long term if they did, you know, XYZ, OnlyFans, you know, stripping, whatnot, and this, that, and the third. To each their own, right? But I'm only saying this because if you want a certain thing from this certain person and you don't want to tolerate what they did in the past, you don't have to, because now you know. A lot of people hide their past because they know deep down that the person that they want is not going to want them because they did that. Hey, sorry, not sorry. You should have thought about that first, but some people don't, and some people don't care. Okay. So my example in my stories from not worrying about somebody's past mattering is I did get in a relationship, and I definitely will tell my full story of marriage eventually. But yeah, I did get with a woman who had a questionable past. Not so much the porn route, videos is out there or anything like that, but just solely off of her actions, moving very promiscuous, having dated multiple guys, and hearing stories, her talk of her being in a relationship with her boyfriend, her saying that cheating is wrong, finding a way to justify cheating on her boyfriend with her best friend. Now that's a red flag, because any woman who wants to stoop that low to cheat on her current boyfriend who cheated on her and going to the basically a homie hopper is very questionable. And men should always listen to what a woman says and watch what she does, and then judge her off her actions. So I didn't do my due diligence of making sure the past aligned with my future, because I would say most of the time men care about a woman's past and women care about a man's future, because women want security and men want some type of reassurance that that baby was his. Today's day and age, the year 2025, a lot of women are more promiscuous than they used to be in the past. I'm not saying there weren't promiscuous women in the past. 304s and bops been around for a lifetime, for a century. It's just now it's being mainstream to the media because we have cameras, we have, you know, social media, we have different platforms where girls can sexualize themselves and get paid for it. It's only now that it's so, you know, broadcasted. It's sad, but sometimes helpful. I would just say that a lot of women want to live this lifestyle and not have any consequences to it. So some women dive into the OF and the porn industry and then want to erase it after they're finished, but you can't, because your past matters, especially when you're in the dating market. Your past definitely matters to majority of men. If a man doesn't have a backbone, he's not going to care. Just like if a woman decides to settle with a guy who's not on his grind, if you don't have any plans for the future, like children and stuff like that, so be it. You can be with a bum, but I don't advise that. Most men, I would say, have an idea of what a good woman is, especially if their mother was a good woman. But nowadays, men are lost and they need to be found. So I want to tell this message to men. Make sure you check their past. And also women, I don't want to just be one-sided. Women, make sure you check the man's past. Now, how the past of me checking, because I have a history too. I wasn't financially stable. I wasn't working out. I wasn't on my purpose. I wasn't on my grind. So in relationships, women would want to cheat. Women would want to leave me because I didn't give them any reassurance for the future. Now, I didn't have reassurance with them because I couldn't tell if that child would be mine, because they were so careless. They opened their legs to any guy. They would open their legs to any guy with money, and they didn't really care about their hygiene or anything when it came to sleeping around. How me checking the past helped me now, I had a more clear mind to understand certain actions of a woman. I started to see like, hey, she's wearing certain clothing. If I suggest, hey, you shouldn't wear this, you'll still wear it anyway and discard what I'm saying. Certain friends she hangs around, she wants to go on girls trip, girls night out. She loves like Glorilla and Meg Thee Stallion and Lotto and all these city girls and everything like that. Those are signs that you need to realize that, hey, this girl is not good for you long term. And I never say to try to change a woman. I say always change yourself so you can get women around you that respect you and honor themselves. Because if you're trying to change somebody and that's who they are, they're going to resent you, and you're going to be working so hard to make somebody something that they're not. And most of the time, they don't want to change. The saying goes, don't save her, she doesn't want to be saved. So I tell men, when you check a woman's past, and I tell women when you check a man's past, you want to make sure you see those certain signs. Just like how a job will check your resume and see if it lines up and if you're qualified. Same thing with a bank. They'll check your credit history to see if you qualify for the loan that you want. You have to conduct yourself that way. You have to make sure, hey, for the man, you have to make sure, hey, I'm the prestigious law firm. They want the job. They have to come to me, and they have to come to me correct. Their resume has to be up to par, and they have to be punctual, and they have to be respectful. Then you could give them the job, because their past shows that they're up to that. But don't get me wrong, just because they're hiding their past doesn't mean they don't have one. So make sure you take your time and also do the vetting. The main thing of the past for the woman is, most men say the whole facts, which is body count. A lot of women lie because they know that that's shameful to sleep around with a lot of men, because it's all based off biology. The more men you sleep with, the more your value goes down in the dating market, because it just shows that you're very careless and don't care what can happen. Pregnancies, a whole bunch of babies, abortions, and all of that is not a good sign for a man. Now, don't get me wrong. If she was in one relationship with a guy for 10 years and she didn't cheat or anything like that, which you still won't know, that's not a bad sign, because she was with a guy for a long time. She's not afraid of commitment. For a woman, if she checks a guy and sees his past, a lot of women say they don't like community dick. Well, if he's sleeping around with every girl and dirty girls and stuff like that, that's another sign where, hey, this guy's not, good for me, because he doesn't have dick discipline. He cares about chasing girl instead of getting to purpose. And I tell men all the time, focus on purpose and focus on you until the focus is on you. So pay attention to people's past, because people's past matters.